Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency and Money Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I'm Tony Guerra, pharmacist and publisher, bringing you help succeeding in your career, health, and wealth before, during, and after residency. You can sign up for the email list at pharmacyresidencypodcast.com to get your free LOI template or get editing help working one-on-one with me at residency.teachable.com. Okay, this is part 2 with the financial tortoise, and we're going to go over the other steps to optimizing where to put your money. And again, I think that while this may be, a little bit more on the advanced side in terms of where you are, knowing where you're going is such a huge part of it. So if you got any questions, TonyThePharmacist@gmail.com, but let's get started with the show. Much like when we're on a plane, they tell you to put your oxygen on yourself first, then on the person next to you. You've got the children and the 529 as number 6. Mm-hmm. And I've heard this is good advice as well, where you really want to focus on your retirement first and then, work on, helping with the college and things like that. What was your kind of rationale for putting that in the 6th position?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head. I think the big kind of the buckets, the tax advantage buckets for most people are the 401ks and the Roth IRAs. And if you have HSA, that's really nice. So if you have those buckets already set and established that you're funneling money to, then I think a 529 is a great vehicle to start saving for your kids' college. And sooner you can do it, the better it is. So yeah, I mean, I think it's you've already nailed it in the head as regards to putting our mask on first, and then once we have a good seal,
yeah,
we can start thinking about our kids. Yeah,
because you will pass out once you start seeing the prices of the colleges and things. And then just personally, have you? How did you make the decision as to how much to put into the 529s? We just said, all right, well, in-state tuition is $10,000 a year. Let's say you go for 5 years each. We're going to put in $150,000, which may be closer to 180 by the time they get there in 6 years.
Yeah.
But how did you make that decision?
Yeah. So this one, I don't have a good kind of a number for it. I think I straddle somewhere between, I guess, I used to have a fixed amount, and then now I think I try to put in as much as I could. So I don't have a good answer for it. And I think the reason is because with college, I feel like there is a lot of creative options we can take. And 529 is just one, I think, kind of a lever that we can pull, which is great to have. So I think I want to fund it, but I don't feel like I want to fund it to be able to cover 100% of my kids' tuition.
Okay.
Because I feel like after having gone through the experience of, when I went to undergrad, I did ROTC, an Army ROTC program. So they paid for my college.
Okay.
And then I didn't have any student debt coming out of college. But then I was, I took that for granted when I went to grad school. And then I took on student loans. So I feel like after having gone through, made all these dumb mistakes, I feel like there are a lot of different creative ways to approach college. I think there's a lot of companies that are willing to sponsor sponsor students. And I feel like, with my wife, when she did nursing, her student loan was pretty small because she contracted with the hospital to go work there. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of hospitals that contract with pharmacists. Am I?
No, we tend to take advantage of the PSLF.
Okay, got it.
So the nonprofits and kind of eventually they go away.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I think there's options. So this is where I don't have a fixed number regarding 529s.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do another number. Now we're maxing out our 401k. So for someone who's 51 like me, because I get the catch up, I can put in 30,000. And to some people, that number just seems incredible. Like they're trying to save $300 a month, much less $30,000 for a year.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about now you've kind of crossed over where now I don't want to say you're really making it, because even with that much money, the amount that retirement can cost. But tell me a little bit about maxing out the 401k and how that works. And really, the more money you put into this tax advantage, the less taxes you're paying in the year.
Right.
So it can be somewhat affordable.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest levers for high income earners in order to lower your taxable income. This is kind of the low hanging fruit. That more money, every dollar you put into the 401k, those are money that you don't have to pay taxes on today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think because of that rationale that you can lower your taxes today, I think trying to put as much money into the 401k in my book is also a no-brainer. And I think the other aspect is on the withdrawal. I know there's R&D that catches a lot of people in the end, but you have control over how much you can withdraw from the 401k down the line.
Yeah.
Which you can control they call it like tax arbitrage. You don't pay tax up front, and then like at the end, you let it grow, tax deferred. And it's not like tax free like HSA completely, but then if you can control your withdrawal at the end, you could be you're paying much less in taxes than you'll be paying taxes up front when you're at the higher income bracket, when you're in your full working years. So yeah, I mean 401k in my mind, it's just such a low hanging fruit that you can easily put more money in the market and then lower your taxable income today as well.
Okay. The next one's taxable, and I kind of want to pair these up because what's happening is a lot of people are putting money into money markets. I don't understand treasuries and bonds well enough to speak to them. I just know that when I go into my account, I can get a little over 5% just for putting it in that kind of account. So if somebody has the choice of buying stocks and getting this 5% return, where would it make sense for them to put the stocks, and where would it make sense for them to put the thing that's going to collect the dividends? Would the dividend one go in the 401k so it's tax deferred, and then the stocks go in like you have a great video on why you buy index funds? Would the index fund go into the 401k so that or would it be the other way around? What would make more sense, taxable account versus 401k?
So regarding
so we have two choices of investments where we've got an S&P index, like FXAIX, something like that, and we've got an account like SPRXX, which is a money market, which will provide dividends throughout the year. So let's say there's 100,000 of S&P and 100,000 of dividend, yielding money market account. You have those 100,000s. Which one would belong in the taxable account? Which one would belong in the 401k to tax advantage it? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess index funds in general are already tax advantaged.
Okay.
So then I wouldn't. So I think there are some nuances as regards to what's slightly more tax advantage when you're comparing, like, let's say, bonds versus like a bond index fund versus like stock index fund. I think, but I would actually say for most people, it really doesn't make that big of a difference.
Okay.
Because I think we're like it's like, it's the minutiae, and then as long as we're putting money into the market, as much money into the market as possible, that's what matters. It's not like how, especially if our strategy is very simple, kind of like what I talk about in my channel is simplify as much as possible.
3
simple
fund.
broad market. Yeah. 3 fund. I would even, sometimes I even say just like 2 fund is even enough. And for most young people, is like 1 fund is fine. Like, it's like there's no even need to think about
At
bonds.
VTSAX, you're done. Or
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then just whatever in all your accounts, simplify it and put as much money into it as possible. I would say if you're kind of talking about so then the whole two fund strategy is it really based upon you have bucket of money that you're putting into the market to work for you, the equities fund. And that could be represented by like a VTSAX or FXIX, I think you were mentioning earlier regarding Fidelity. That's what's going to grow your wealth. And then there's the other bucket of money that's kind of providing you this cushion. So that could be cash, savings, or money market account, as long as it's liquid and you can access it. Okay. So this is where I would say, when we're thinking about taxable account, what is the purpose of that taxable account? Do you want that to appreciate with the market in order that you can use that as a way to, you can tap into that as part of your nest egg when you're retired, or you have money that you want to access before you're retired. And then I think everything else would be used as kind of your emergency fund / cushion / living expenses. Gotcha. And I think within those buckets, you can try to say, okay, like if I have a liquid money market account and I can get a 5%, why not? Then let me put that money in there. And then I would keep, another 3-6 months into just a regular savings or checking account that I can access on a daily basis. Okay. So I think I kind of like to look at it that way, just kind of simplifying, like if it's an investing for a long-term strategy, it's really just one bucket. It's just as much money into an equities fund as possible, whether it's in a taxable and a 401k or Roth, it doesn't matter. And then I think there's the other bucket, which is just kind of my liquid cash. And then if I can try to get a little bit more return on those liquid cash, better it is. But I think we also have to be cautious regarding not, like CDs are nice, so they're tempting. However, you're also locking your money in for 6 months, like a year. Yeah. You just don't know what's going to happen in those years. Right. And then is that extra 5% that you're getting, is it really is that going to make a difference in the long run? Right. Yeah.
So it sounds like I'm reading Just Keep Buying, who says just what you did, which was just keep putting money in. But there's massive correlation between the more money you have, that your savings rate goes up. So if, for example, when I was working at Wendy's for $3.35 an hour, gosh, there was no savings. Right. And then I got my first job and there was some savings. But then when I had side hustles and my job, then there was more savings. So that, with that keep savings, now we get into the taxable account. Now, you put the taxable account before low interest debt. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so low interest, I mean, it's I made this video like a couple years ago when the interest rate, was very different. So it's hard to say. Like at the time when I was talking about interest rates, I was, high was like 5%, but now that's the standard almost. So the logic regarding low interest debt, and I think this was where, in my mind at the time, was like anything lower than like 3%. I think it's okay to pay those down later. It almost kind of buckets together as most home mortgage loans are within that bucket. So that was kind of the logic behind it. That you want to try to get as much high interest debt off your books as possible, but then as early as possible in order that you can free up more dollars to put into the market. But then if you have anything, that's below 3%, no major rush, to pay those off. Yeah, I mean, in today's world, it's interesting. I don't think the answer is as clear. I think it's really dependent upon the individual and then the kind of loans that we're getting now.
Right. And I mean, if someone had followed your advice, starting October, the S&P just blew up, the NASDAQ blew up, and has done amazingly well. But one of the very emotional things is paying off that mortgage. And they used to have mortgage burning parties before my time. But that's the last one on your list. But I feel like that would be the most emotionally satisfying of them. Is that something you guys have done, or you've seen some of the people on your channel say, "Hey, I paid off my mortgage. I got to step 10. Thank you for your help."
Yeah, I've seen people pay off their mortgage, which is commendable. I mean, I think this is one of those very personal kind of a decision. So, I mean, it's kind of at the end of the list, because essentially it's saying, if you're at a decision point where you're thinking about paying off your mortgage or not, essentially you're in a really good financial position.
Yeah.
You're maxing out your 401ks, you're investing in a taxable account, and that's a good problem to have.
Uptown problems.
Yeah, very, very uptime problems. So at that point, I mean, it's, the world is your oyster. You can choose your own adventure. If you feel like paying off mortgage is gonna give you that emotional kind of a like peace, then all for it. But at the same time, there's also the mathematical question of, like, let's say you have like a 3% mortgage. Then mathematically, no one can predict the future, but based upon historical trend, you can get better returns in the market,
right?
Or even a CD at this point, or a money market. So then, but yeah, there's no like right or wrong answer here, because if you got to this point where you max out your 401k, you're maxing out your Roth, you have a taxable account, I mean, you already won the game. At this point, it's just, you get to choose an adventure in which direction you want to go.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard Susie Orman has 25 million, 24 million of which are in bonds, only 1 million in stocks. She said, I already won the game. I don't need to risk anything.
Right. Yeah.
So, I always think it's interesting. Where is that? How have you won the game? Where do you win? But I think if you do get there, you're in very good shape. Though I just got my tax bill. The one thing you have to do now is you have to pay your own taxes, and you have to have your own escrow, basically. And so you have to have, if you've done all these, then you have the $5,000 or whatever it is to pay off that tax bill or whatever it is.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to go through this and they're going to say, wow, this is great, works great. And then all of a sudden be like, but what if? And then, but what if? So can you tell me a little bit about how you meet individually with people for just an hour or I think it's 45 minutes and kind of answer all of their questions, and how they could best prepare to make use of that. So, if I'm going to pay for someone's time, I want to make good use of it, not just like, okay, I just have this one question. How do people prepare for that meeting with you? What have the meetings gone like in the past?
Yeah, so I offer a one-to-one coaching service. So having run this channel, I get a lot of inquiries regarding people wanting input in their financial situation. So I think one of the big benefits that I've seen people talk about after meeting with me is, there's a lot of noise in the financial industry market. And I've in the past also worked with fund managers or actively managed funds, investment advisors. And it's always hard to decipher kind of like what the motive behind certain products that they're recommending. If they're getting a kickback, or if it's just if it's a commission based. So and then there's so much complexity out there too. So I think that's one of the benefits. If you just want to talk to someone, and I'm just, to be honest, I'm just an average guy on the internet that likes to talk about money, that made a bunch of money mistakes. So if you want to get some, what do you call it? Have to talk through someone that doesn't, have kind of a skin in the game with like an investment firm. I think this could be a good service, and that's what a lot of the people that I've spoken to have voiced out. And one of the best ways I've seen people prepare is, I think just thinking through all the major money questions that you might have. So a lot of people wanted one of the best, I think that one of the best sessions have been kind of going through like their 401k offerings or the funds that their fund manager or their financial advisor had advised them into, and then looking at the expense ratios and seeing if there is a alternative kind of a DIY option that they can pursue. And then just kind of talking through what that process will look like. What does kind of wrapping their head around what they're getting with their current arrangement and their service versus like if they were to do it on their own, what that could look like. And then being able to speak to like someone like myself who doesn't really, have any representation with any of the investment firms. I'm just sharing what I do personally with my own money after all the mistakes I've made. So yeah, I think that's one of the best ways to prepare. And at the same time, like if you just want to talk to somebody without being sold anything, I think that's, kind of the service that I'm providing. So if you think that could be a value add, you can always go to my website and learn more about it.
Financialtortoise.com?
Yes.
Okay. But to be fair, you did graduate from a top 20 MBA school. I mean, it's
a while back, yes.
So you still have you have some financial knowledge. I mean, beyond the you had some didactic training. To be fair,
some yes, a lot of I guess I've learned the quant portion of it, but then my emotional behavioral finance portion wasn't developed. That was developed later on with a lot of other mistakes that I made. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything you would want to tell the 40,000 YouTubers I've got following me or the pharmacists out there about finances? And I love your tagline where we grow money slow and steady. But anything you would want to make sure that they know?
Yeah, so I think just the idea that money doesn't have to be complicated. That is something that, and a lot of the pharmacists that, that you speak to, they all got to that point because they're super intelligent. So then, this money stuff is something that, that any one of us can learn if we spend the time. And on my website, I list out all of the personal finance books that I personally read and then glean a lot of knowledge from to help me filter out the noise that's out there as regards to how to make money, how to invest. So I think that's kind of the big, I guess, kind of the message that I want to kind of, always impart upon to other people is that like money doesn't have to be complicated like the media and the movies make it out to be. This is something that anyone, if you just put in the time that you can learn and then you can manage, and then you're the one that's driving it versus letting someone else drive it.
No, that sounds fantastic. All right. Well, thank you for being on the Pharmacy Residency Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
This has been the Pharmacy Residency and Money Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. You might want to check out our available residency audiobooks at pharmacyresidencypodcast.com/books, or you can get your first book free if you've never been on Audible before. You can work one-on-one with me to get a better residency that will better suit your career, health, and wealth at residency.teachable.com. Feel free to send an invite to Tony PharmD on LinkedIn or email me at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com. Music was by Policy.